There is a silence inside us that doesn't come from the absence of sound, but from the presence of something deeper than sound. It is not quiet in the way the world understands quiet. It is not still in the way the body becomes still. It is the stillness of something ancient, not bound by time, untouched by the noise of thought. In that stillness, the soul moves, not with the frantic steps of the mind, but with the longing so intimate, so quiet, that it often goes unnoticed. And yet, it moves. It stirs in the background of every experience, gently tugging us inward. The soul leans not forward, but upward, not toward the sky, but towards something infinitely closer, so close that we forget to see it. This longing is not created by desire. It is not manufactured by culture nor taught by tradition. It is not a reaction to suffering, though suffering may awaken it. It is woven into the fabric of what we are. Before we had names for divinity, before we made philosophies or scriptures, this longing was already alive in us, like gravity pulling us not downward, but inward. Thomas Aquinas did not speak of this as a theory, but as an observation of the soul's deepest orientation, not toward pleasure, not toward power, not even toward understanding, but toward God. And what is God, if not the very ground of being itself? What is God, if not the fullness that calls to the empty? What is God, if not the home our soul never really left, but only fell asleep within? This inclination toward the divine is not effortful. It is not ambition dressed in spiritual robes. It is not the noisy quest for enlightenment, nor the desperate attempt to purify what was never impure. It is quieter than that, more honest than that. It is the ache beneath every other ache, the nameless yearning beneath all of our named desires. Every time we pause and wonder, every time we feel the emptiness that no experience can fill, every time we look at the stars and feel strangely at home, that is the soul remembering. Not remembering something it learned, but something it always knew, that it belongs, that it comes from something whole, something sacred, something unshakable, and that this something, this God, is not elsewhere but here, now, always. We were not born into separation. We were born into mystery. And the soul, wise in ways the mind cannot grasp, continues to lean toward that mystery, not to solve it, but to surrender to it. What draws us to beauty, to truth, to peace, is not weakness, but memory, the memory of a unity the world made us forget. And in this remembrance we do not climb, we return. We do not grasp, we allow. We do not become, we uncover. This is not a path of conquest. It is a path of remembrance, and it begins the moment we stop chasing God outside and start listening for the whisper that's already within. What if God was never lost? What if our search has been less about finding and more about remembering? Less about reaching forward and more about sinking into what has always been holding us. The soul's inclination toward God is not an intellectual pursuit.
It is not rooted in belief systems or doctrines. It doesn't depend on metaphysics, on rituals, or even on the clarity of language. It is older than all of those. It is the pull of something the soul already knows. The way the tide responds to the moon without needing to understand gravity. This is why, across every culture, in the silence of mystics and the poetry of sages, we hear echoes of the same message. There is something within you that is not broken. There is something within you that is not confused, not restless, not afraid. It is not made of your thoughts or emotions. It is not your history. It is not your identity. It is the quiet center around which all else turns. Thomas Aquinas called this the natural inclination of the soul, but in truth, it is not even a movement, it is a presence. It is the space in which all movement appears. It is the source from which we think we are departing and the destination we believe we must reach. But we cannot reach what we have never left. The mind searches for God as an object. It turns outward, looking for signs, symbols, confirmations. It studies, compares, doubts, and believes. But the soul does not seek in this way. The soul does not seek to possess, it seeks to return. And this return is not measured in miles or milestones. It is measured in surrender. And letting go of what we are not, and allowing the veil of the ego, that thin fabric of separateness, to fall gently away. When we drop the effort to know God intellectually, when we stop trying to define the infinite, something else emerges. Not an answer, but a clarity. Not a doctrine, but a presence. Not a concept, but a communion. And in this communion, God is not experienced as other, not of being in the sky, not a force outside of us, but the very aliveness behind our breath, the witness of every moment, the still eye at the center of every storm. The soul knows this, not in words, not in ideas, but in resonance. It knows this the way roots know water or light knows how to fall. And so, our longing is not a flaw. It is not a sign of something missing. It is the compass of the soul aligning us with this source. What the world calls spiritual desire is not craving. It is a remembering. It is the echo of a silence that once filled us entirely. To hear that silence again, to return to that center, we do not need to change. We only need to stop pretending. Stop pretending that we are lost. Stop pretending that God is elsewhere. Stop pretending that the soul must earn what it already is. God is not a prize to be won. God is the home from which we forgot we came. And in every still moment of honesty, the soul leans. Not out of fear, not out of need, but out of love. Because what it seeks is not distant, not separate, not beyond. It is the source of the seeking itself.
We imagine the spiritual path as a journey forward, a linear ascent towards something higher, better, more complete. But the truth whispered by the sages, from Aquinas to the mystics of every tradition, is that there is no path to what is already here. The soul's movement toward God is not a pilgrimage through space and time. It is a movement inward, deeper, quieter, until there is no more movement, only being. To seek God through the ego is to build a ladder on clouds. But to fall silent, even for a moment, is to feel the ground of being beneath everything. It is to know without knowing, to belong without effort. The soul does not need permission to return. It does not need to be purified or perfected. It only needs to be remembered. Not by the mind, but by presence, by the undistracted awareness that sees clearly, hears deeply, and rests in what cannot be named. You were never meant to live your life in exile from yourself. The ache you feel is not the absence of God, but the veil of forgetting. And this forgetting is not a failure, it's part of the dance. The divine hides in plain sight, not to punish, but to be discovered anew, not to create distance, but intimacy. For what is more intimate than the one who breathes your breath, who sees through your eyes, who is closer than your thoughts? When Aquinas says the soul inclines naturally toward God, he does not mean a struggle or a striving. He means that the soul leans like a sunflower to the light, like sleep to the weary, with inevitability, with love. It is in your nature to return, not because you must, but because you already are. Even now, as you listen, some part of you remembers the stillness beneath the thought, the space beneath the form, the light behind the mind. And in that remembrance, there is no distance, no seeker, no sought, only the soft realization that the one who searches and the one who is found have never been two. This is the paradox at the heart of all spiritual longing. We seek with urgency what we already are. We knock on the door from the inside. And God, who is never absent, waits patiently, not on a throne above the world, but in the quiet center of your own being. Not in reward, but in recognition. Not at the end of the path, but at the beginning and the end, and everything in between. So stop running, stop striving. Let the soul do what it has always done. Lean toward what is real. And in that leaning, in that remembering, you will not find something new. You will come home to what has never left.